Hello world, my name is Emerald and I am a bookworm. Last October, I decided to do a read through of the book Dracula for, spooky Halloween season. I had read the book once before many years prior, so it was almost like reading it again for the first time, and especially reading it as an adult, and I really loved it. I had a really fun time reading it. This year, since I now have a YouTube channel, I thought it would be fun to vlog my way through the book while I reread it. I haven't done any book content yet, but like I said, I love to read. I've always been a bookworm. I was an English major.
Yes, you heard me, an English major.
I thought it would be the perfect way to dip my toe into kind of the book side of YouTube. What I'm going to be doing is every Monday and Friday of October, I will be vlogging 3 chapters. There are 27 chapters, there are 9 Mondays and Fridays, so I love that. It's a perfect, consistent, evenly divided split. I love it. And I'll just be talking about what happens in those 3 chapters, what I liked, what I didn't like. I don't know if this is a format that's been done before. I mean, I'm sure it has. Sure, a little bit of everything has been done before at this point. This was just the best way that I saw to do this. If you happen to be reading the book at the time of watching this and want to follow along, that'll be cool. Or maybe you've already read the book, or maybe you've never read the book and don't like to read but want to know the details of what happens. Whatever has brought you here, welcome, and feel free to chat in the comments. I love talking about books. Without further ado, let's get into the book. So Dracula was first published in 1897 by Bram Stoker, full name Abraham Stoker. He was Irish. Go Ireland. And it was fairly well received upon publication. People really found it very scary, and it was just one of the first true horror books. And of course, now the story of Dracula is one that many, if not most, are pretty familiar with. It has been adapted many times. It has influenced a myriad of authors and tales. That's another thing that made me want to do this video series. While the vampire aspects of the story, it's something that everyone's pretty familiar with, and even Dracula himself was a figure is pretty well known, and certain characters like Van Helsing came from this book, and he's gotten some notoriety. But I think the story itself is one that people aren't too familiar with, especially because some of the adaptations haven't been very faithful to the book. I'm side-eyeing Francis Ford Coppola. I really love the book. I think the book itself and its characters and its plot deserve more recognition than it gets. This is a book that is told through letters and journal entries and articles, all just written stuff. The journal entries in particular are just fun because it offers more of a deeper first-person narrative. So let's get started. So Dracula starts off following Jonathan Harker. He's, I would say, the main protagonist of the novel. We have plenty of other fun characters that will be coming in later. He is a solicitor, which is like a form of lawyer, legal practitioner, along those lines. He's based in England, but he is traveling through Eastern Europe to Romania, specifically the region of Transylvania, in order to attend to his new client. I'll give you 3 guesses as to who that client's gonna be. And the thing about Jonathan Harker is he's a himbo, and at times I love him dearly, and at other times I find him frustrating. He's also a bit snotty. These first few chapters are told through his journal entries, so it's like his interpretation of what's going on around him. There's definitely a sense of othering in this book, looking at Eastern Europe from a Western European lens. Like, one of the things he writes in his journal is that, quote, "the women looked pretty except when you went near them," unquote. Rude much. Also makes comments about the outfits that people are wearing, like, quote, "cowboy hats, white linen shirts, high boots with trousers tucked in, full-bottom jeans, boots with the fur." Sounds like a fire fit to me. Like, it's called fashion, sweetie. Look it up. Once he gets close to the area that Dracula lives in, the nearby town, anytime he mentions that he's there to visit Dracula, the townspeople freak out. They cross themselves, they get really scared. The wife of the owner of the inn that he's staying at tells him outright that he's in danger. She's hysterically crying. She even gets on her hands and knees and begs him not to go. And this man's response is, "there is business to be done." This man is willing to risk his life for work. Never be willing to risk your life for work unless your work is where you actually have to risk your life for other people. Anything else, the man does not care about you Corporations don't care about you. Do not give yourself up to bloodthirsty monsters or bread. It's not worth it. You can't secure the bag if you're dead. So seeing that this man is too stupid to listen to her, the innkeeper's wife is nice enough to at least give him a crucifix and a rosary in order to give him some kind of protection. And even though Harker himself isn't Catholic and he doesn't really buy into this stuff, he just takes it to be nice, which is great for him because they're surprise tools that will come in handy later. And later when he's sitting in the coach to travel to Dracula's castle, there's a whole crowd of people outside like watching the stupid Englishman about to go to his death. And they're all talking about how much he's in danger. If I look up a place on Yelp and it has under 3.5 stars, I hesitate and get suspicious. Could you imagine if all the Yelp reviews were 1 star, my friend went here and died, 1/2 star, the man of this house stole my husband for food? Like, I would be rethinking things. If your TripAdvisor reviews are telling you that you're probably not gonna come out of this hotel, don't go into the hotel. But Jonathan Harker is a stubborn hoe. You know, I think we've all had to stay in sketchy places from time to time, but this just feels extreme. And after hearing all this, the thing is too, it's an entire town of people. It's just not 1 or 2 people. An entire town is telling you you're in danger, do not go. Like, do not pass go. Don't go. After hearing all this, Harker's response is that he must ask the Count about these superstitions. Multiple people are telling you, yeah, the person who lives there is a murderer. You don't then go to the murderer and be like, oh my god, do you know that they call you a murderer? He's so dumb. He is the person in the beginning of a horror movie who gets killed immediately for doing something stupid. We move on. Harker travels in a coach closer to the area of the castle, but when they reach the drop-off point, the driver of the coach tries to leave without letting Harker out in an attempt to kind of save him and just like get out before any trouble comes along. Unfortunately though, before he can go, Dracula rolls up in his coach. This coach kind of appeared out of nowhere. It's almost like it's supernatural or something. Now this time he's disguised as just like a coach driver, so Harker doesn't know who he is, but the other people on his coach do. And one of the other passengers actually makes a comment that the dead travel fast. And Harker doesn't find this alarming. He's like, that's a normal comment for somebody to make. And he just gets into the new whip. They ride around for a little while, actually go in circles. I'm not quite sure why they do this. I think Dracula just has a flair for the dramatic and wants to shake Harker up a little bit. They also run into some wolves, and the driver appears to control them. And chapter 1 ends with Harker finally reaching Dracula's castle. After an admirable quick change, Dracula comes out to greet Harker, and they sit down and have dinner together, but of course Dracula isn't eating because he ate earlier. Harker makes a lot of observations about the state of the castle. Clearly very old, the furniture is very old. Could definitely use a trip from Chip and Joanna, like some fixing up is needed. And Dracula tells him that Harker is allowed in anywhere of the castle except where doors are locked. And this is important. Very simple rules. Whether you're staying with a creepy monster or not, if somebody tells you, please don't go in that room, it's simple enough to not go in the room. Place your bets whether he's going to go into the room or not. We talk about London and the house that Dracula is setting up. So Harker is there. His job seems to be a mix of law and real estate. So like he's basically helping Dracula set up his new home in London. Obviously this is the olden days, so travel isn't as accessible as it's not like he could just hop on a plane from Romania to London to check it out himself. Harker is explaining the area to him and things like that. Harker gets a room in the castle. He spends his days just kind of wandering around. It's a massive castle and there are only 2 people, and obviously Dracula is not out and about during the day because it's his nappy time. He does notice that he's pretty much alone during the day, and he actually makes the remark, quote, "I fear I am myself the only living soul within the place," unquote. Wow, I wonder why you think that. And he's starting to get creeped out, which, like, you were warned, buddy. And the first major incident of his stay at the castle is one morning when he's shaving, and Dracula just comes behind him and places like a creepy hand on his shoulder, which I think is funny. Just imagine him just like chilling there and all of a sudden like, old man behind you, like, boundaries, my friend. But Harker realizes that he doesn't see Dracula in the mirror. And he does a double take because he knows he's behind him, but he's not in the mirror. And then he cuts himself because of course he does. And blood obviously starts to drip from his face and into the sink. And this sets Dracula off. He lunges for Harker's throat, but winds up grabbing the crucifix. So shout out to the innkeeper's wife. And so Dracula backs off and he kind of like goes back to normal, but he's still angry. And this is one of the funniest parts of the book for me. He realizes that the mirror is a danger to him and it gives himself away. So he blames the mirror for the cut. He calls it a, quote, foul bauble of a man's vanity. He's sounding like Camila Cabello and Cinderella. And then he grabs the mirror and yeets it out the window. Like, just imagining you're staying in somebody's house and they just grab, like, your compact and toss it out the window. Like, it's so funny to me. It's hilarious. It's wild. And it's a sign that it's time to go. I would be packing up my stuff. Thank you for your time. We'll follow up on this through carrier pigeon or something, but it's time for me to skedaddle. But as you've probably realized by now, Jonathan Harker and I do not have the same attitudes to weird behavior. And his response to watching his host, 1, not appear in a mirror when he knows he's there, 2, try to rip his throat out, 3, grab his belongings and toss them out stories down to the Romanian forest floor, is to say, it is very annoying, for I do not see how I am to shave. This man cannot be helped. He's too far gone. King of oblivious horror movie men. This book answers the age-old question, can being a himbo be dangerous? And the answer is yes. Clearly, after being nearly found out during this incident, Dracula realizes that things are not going to go so easy, and this chapter ends with Harker realizing that his room is locked and he is a prisoner in the castle. This is why we listen to locals. Harker realizes he's trapped. He's freaking out, finally starting to put it together why all the townspeople were telling him not to go here. Things you should have worried about before you went into the creepy castle for 400 Alex. Doors are locked so he can't leave. No cell phone. No one around to like call for help. He decides that he's going to try to appear normal, calm, friendly with the Count and ask him questions to try to get to know him, to try to get as much information out of him as possible in an inconspicuous way. Dracula talks to him about his history and all the past wins of his like family line, but he talks about it as if he's really there. Wonder why that is. Dracula also tells Harker that he is to stay with him for a whole month. And I know that it's the olden days and he's his client, but I'm wondering, like, even outside of the supernatural aspects of the story, like, was that normal? Like, would solicitors stay with their clients for a month or more? And then one night, Harker is just looking out the window, wistfully trying to figure out any hope of escape, and he sees something pretty freaky. First he sees Dracula poke his head out the window, and he's like, oh, yep, that's my captor. And then he sees Dracula start to climb down the building a la Spider-Man. I find this an hysterical image. I wish I didn't have to reference the T word so soon, but you probably knew it was coming. I mean, it was inevitable. But in my opinion, it's funnier to imagine a vampire, like this grown man just like climbing down a building. Maybe doing like the lizard tongue thing that David Tennant chose to do in The Goblet of Fire. All that is funnier to me than sparkling. Sparkling's just silly, but like, I don't know, the image of him like slithering down the wall, I find funny. I think the thing with this book too is like, I'm a big scaredy cat. I don't like scary movies. I don't like scary images. Something like this, like, it could be done scary, but my default is humor. So I just imagine things in like the silliest way possible to make me laugh and not as scared. So that definitely has some influence. But it's also funny in the way that it's written, because then Harker's comment is, once more I have seen the Count go out in his lizard fashion. Like, it's just a funny way to word it for me. And this is just another nail in the coffin, for Harker to realize that he's not just dealing with a weird, scary, dangerous old man, but a supernatural creature. And then, much like Belle and Beauty and the Beast, Harker does something silly and goes to the place in the castle that he was explicitly told not to go to. This book is just an entire lesson, and if you F around, you're gonna find out. Not only does he go into a forbidden room, he decides to sleep there. Why? Why are you sleeping in a place that is not your room? You're in danger no matter where you're gonna sleep. So why would you choose for it to be in the place that your host told you not to go into? Not only did Dracula tell him not to go into these rooms, but he actually said that they were unsafe to sleep in. And now he's gonna sleep. You know this man is a danger to you. Well, don't you think he's gonna be mad if he sees you in there, sees you sleeping in there? Why are you deliberately disobeying your scary host? I don't know. It's like he has two brain cells and they both are on vacation in Cabo right now. I don't know. It's times like these where Harker really comes out like one of those like really exaggeratedly obtuse horror movie characters from the Scary Movie franchise. One thing I do admire about him is his ability to sleep, because I know I have trouble sleeping in just my normal bed in my normal apartment. If I was in a murder castle, I wouldn't be sleeping for days. He must have some good melatonin, because this boy can sleep wherever until he wakes up from his little nap and realizes that there are 3 women in the room with him. Side note, I don't understand why Dracula only has these 3 women in his posse. Like, I know why he has these 3 women. Wink wink, nudge nudge. I'm limited to what I can say. Pick up what I'm throwing down. But why wouldn't he want as many vampire friends as possible? Like, wouldn't he want an army of vampires? Anyway, so these ladies, they want to it's a term I can use. I don't know what's okay to say. I should have thought about this before I did Dracula. Capri Sun him? We all know what happens. It's a vampire story. Everyone knows what goes down. Like I said before, I don't like scary movies. I'm a scaredy cat. But the vampire mythology itself has never scared me. There have been scary vampire movies. They'll look scary, but just the idea of it, like taking blood, doesn't scare me. Ooh, what you gonna do? Take blood out of me? I'm already low on iron and dizzy when I stand up anyway. It's also more gross to me than scary. The idea of having somebody like all up in my boundaries, please back up. And then also the idea of drinking blood is super gross. Like it's just, it skeeves me out. It doesn't like scare me. It's just like, ew. But anyway, back to the story. So dear Harky is in danger and is looking like a midnight snack, but Count Dracula comes in to save the day and he breaks up the fun and he is pissed. He yells at the girls, telling them that they know they're not supposed to mess with Harker, but they can have him when he's done with him. So that's not ominous. They're disappointed because they're hungry. Ew. So they're feeling a bit hangry. In the midst of the jokes and things, like I said, that I try to find funny to ease the tension and the horror aspects, there are times where this book is just straight up disturbing. And Dracula does leave them something to satisfy their hunger. And it's not a Snickers. It is a child. After going through all of this, Harker passes out, and I don't blame him at this point. That brings us to the end of chapter 3. So that's where we're going to stop for the day. Kind of a heavy end, disturbing end. Harker is in this castle. He knows that he is messing with things outside of his realm of belief. Does not know how he's going to get out. So tune in next time to see if he does. So next week I'll be dealing with chapters 4, 5, and 6. See you then. Bye.